All right. Woo woo. Hello, YouTubers. How we doing today, guys? Maybe just camera this way. Good enough. I don't really want you on top of my screen. That's good enough. Sorry. I'm trying to adjust this so it's not totally touching my computer screen because then when I move, it won't fly around. Good enough. All right. TikTok, and then we're done. Not done, and then we get started. That would be. All right. 1 second. All right. And I'm assuming Discord folks, you can hear. None of you are chiming in, but I'm hoping that's just, whatever. All right. Woo woo. Okay. There you go. Okay. Thanks, Amanda. Just making sure. Sometimes Discord doesn't work, as you know. All right. TikTok is chiming in. We are here. We are here. We are here. We are here. Welcome, everybody. Woo woo. Hello, TikTokers. Hey, Carol. Thank you for the gift. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, YouTubers. Thank you, Discord folks. How's everybody doing today? Woo woo. Anyway, so welcome, guys. It's what does it say? Wednesday, April 16th. I may adjust my light down. I don't want to go too far down. A little bit. Hey, Jen. Hey, Nick. Thank you, Ashley. How are you? Thank you. Hey, Solak. I'm going to adjust this camera one more time for YouTube and Discord. It should. All right. I get sort of anal about it, but I think like the camera should be at a certain level and it's kind of hard to figure out. I think that's okay. All right. Good enough. Anyway, I'm going to hit it one more time. All right, I'm going to leave the camera alone. All right, I am good, Gilbert. How are you? Or Gilbert. I'm thinking Portuguese. Gilbert. I saw Gilbert Gabato, and I'm thinking Portuguese, Gilbert, Gilbert or whatever. That's very funny. Maybe it is Portuguese. I don't know. Anyway, welcome, guys. How are we all doing today? There's a good amount of Trump news, a little bit of Ukraine news, not a ton of Ukraine news, but as you know, it's not like there's a lot of news from Ukraine, right? Kind of dealing with the weird peace Trump stuff, which we'll have some news on that today that, of course, is disturbing. This should not surprise anybody. But, what a surprise there. What else? Anyway, I will get rolling here so you guys know the way the show works. We first talk about the news from America. Thank you, Ava. We then move on to the news from Ukraine. As I said, a lot of America news today, less Ukraine news. Thank you, Fee, for the rose. Hello, back to you. So let's get rolling here. As always, I sort of hit you guys up for gifts on TikTok, YouTube, and Discord because I do this for a living and your gifts help pay the bills. So if you would, that's why I sort of bring that up. I'm going to stop fidgeting with my camera one of these days. All right. I guess that's good enough. Anyway, no, it's not Italian. Oh, Gabato. Okay. I guess. Okay. Gilbert Gabato. Although Gabato, I've never heard that in Italian. That's why. But I'm thinking like Gabato and Gilbert. I'm thinking that almost made me think of Portuguese. Yeah. Anyway, I have Portuguese on the brain. So Gilbert the cartoon. I don't know Gilbert the cartoon. Thank you, Candor. Thank you, Evra. So thank you, Red. So let's get rolling here, guys. Stocks are falling. Today was actually a very, very scary day economically. I know every day is kind of scary. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. But this is sort of a scary day economically. Pretty much what I've been predicting is coming. Actually, not pretty much. What I predicted became true today. I'm going to talk about exactly what Chris just brought up, Fed Chairman Powell. So the Federal Reserve is independent agency of the government that is in charge of fiscal policy. They're in charge of interest rates. They set the interest rates. And even though their interest rates are not directly related to what you pay for mortgages and stuff, it's kind of all related. But they have a huge lever in terms of recessions. They fight recessions. They fight inflation. Actually, the number one thing they fight is inflation, but they also fight recessions. Thank you, Adventures. Thank you, Chris. The Federal Reserve Chairman, the head, the top guy, came out today and pretty much said that Donald Trump is going to cause inflation because of his tariffs. He's going to cause a recession because of his tariffs. And the recession is going to be high unemployment and low economic growth, or descending economic growth and high unemployment. And the worst, so the first thing is the stock market freaked out again today because Powell, again, very smart economic guy, and the Federal Reserve tries to be sort of careful about stuff, right? Thank you. Who keeps giving those? Jordy, thank you for the spring picnic. Thank you, Jen. There was another. Spider had a spring picnic as well. Thank you. I saw it in the corner of my eye, the little coffee cup previously, so I didn't want to miss it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Nicholas, thank you as well. You can give memberships to specific people. Yeah. I thought Oh, you're right. On YouTube you can't. Okay, my bad. I thought YouTube you could. YouTube it's random, isn't it? I thought YouTube you could. I thought you could too on YouTube. Just double check that, guys. I'm almost convinced on YouTube you can. Um, oh, more cool gifts. Who is that? Ashley. I always admonish Ashley, you don't need to buy me gifts. You work for free, but thank you. That's very sweet of you. Thank you, Tarad. Thank you, Linda. So YouTube's random. Okay, thanks, Amanda. So you leveled up. All right, thank you guys. So this is very bad. So what the Federal Reserve Chairman did today, and he tends to be somebody that is very objective and very cautious. So he's been warning between the lines that Trump is going to cause inflation. He's been warning between the lines that Trump is going to cause a recession. Today he did it much more directly, which is kind of scary. So the stock market went down. It went even worse. And I'm going to read you some stuff here from the Wall Street Journal in a second. But the reason, now that should be bad enough, right? As far as things we should be worried about. Who's that? Thank you, Flower Lady, for the flowers. We should be worried enough that the Federal Reserve Chairman said, yes, you're right. We are worried now that Trump's tariffs are going to cause inflation. Yes, you are right. We are worried that Trump's tariffs are going to cause a recession. They're going to cause increased unemployment. They're going to cause the economy to go down. He said something much worse than that. And this is something that I explained to you guys before. I'll try to explain it again. It's economics that can be a little complicated. He said that he's going to focus instead on inflation and not unemployment. Why? Basically, what he said is the Federal Reserve is going to be forced to push the country into a recession. Arctic, you generous maniac, you. Arctic just bought 20 memberships over on YouTube. Those are gift memberships that'll be good for the next month. A bunch of you visiting today just got a free membership thanks to Arctic. You can thank him. Canadian, by the way. You can thank him, and that means that you get to come to join our Saturday show. The Saturday show is 11 a.m. Eastern time, Saturday on YouTube, TikTok, and Discord. It's a hangout just for the paid subscribers as a thank you. Anyway, and you also get little emojis you can use and stuff too. Thank you, Arctic. That was very nice of you. So let me go here. And if anybody can help Bad Gal Jen over on TikTok, she's asking if perhaps she can get a 1 month membership as well. They're 1 month memberships, but it's still kind of a nice little perk. So if anybody can afford on TikTok, feel free to help Jen out. So here's the really big problem. The Federal Reserve its big tool for helping the economy is interest rates. It can raise interest rates when inflation is bad, and it helps get rid of inflation. It can lower interest rates when a recession is happening, when the economy is weak, when it looks like unemployment is going to kick up, when it looks like economic growth is going down. The Fed can lower interest rates and it boosts the economy. I mean, lower interest rates, right? Now, even though it's not directly related to mortgages and stuff like that, in general, when interest rates are lower, you've got more cash. Right? I mean, again, I'm not going to get into the details of the economics because it's complicated, but the concept overall of interest rates is when interest rates are higher, you pay more to borrow money, right? If interest rates are lower, you pay less to borrow money. If you pay less, you've got more money. Your interest payments are less. The payment you're making on your credit card is less. The payment you're making on your house, assuming it's adjustable or you're buying a new house, is less, right? So interest rates give you more money if interest rates are low. Interest rates take more of your money if they're high. What the Federal Reserve Chairman said today was he is looking basically at raising interest rates to stop Donald Trump's inflation from happening. Well, nobody wants interest rates to go up, right? Because, we like interest rates to be low. The problem is, think adventures, inflation is going up from Trump's tariffs. Unemployment is going up because of Trump's tariffs. Typically, the response against each of those is changing interest rates. If you change interest rates, you can solve unemployment. If you change interest rates, you can solve inflation. But there's a problem. So I have like a hair in my mouth. Here's the problem. Inflation's going up because of Trump's tariffs. What is the answer to that? Raise interest rates. If you raise interest rates, you can squash inflation. Okay? So the Fed is under pressure from itself to raise interest rates to squash inflation. What do you do when unemployment goes up? You lower interest rates. When unemployment goes up, when the economy starts slowing down, when businesses start firing people, you lower interest rates to give a kick to those businesses, give them more money. But listen to what I just told you. Unemployment's going up and inflation's going up. If you're trying to stop inflation, you raise interest rates. If you're trying to stop unemployment, you lower interest rates. How do you raise and lower interest rates at the same time? You can't raise interest rates to fight inflation. At the same time, you lower interest rates to fight unemployment. The Federal Reserve is in a pickle because Donald Trump screwed them up with these tariffs. And the Federal Reserve chairman today said that directly. Let me read you what he said, that Trump is basically going to cause inflation. He's going to cause unemployment. And the worst part, but understandable, he said, this is Sophie's choice. He said, we're going to have to make a choice. Do we either fight inflation or do we fight unemployment? And he said they're going to fight inflation. But again, it gets even worse than that, right? Right? It gets even worse than that. If they fight inflation, they're going to increase unemployment. To fight inflation, to fight Donald Trump's inflation caused by the tariffs, he said, they're going to have to raise interest rates. That's going to make unemployment worse. It's going to make job losses greater. It's going to make the economy sink into a deeper recession because interest rates are being raised. They don't have a choice because they've got to fight inflation. Now, the funny, not funny part of this is many people think that Trump was playing many different games with his tariffs, that one of the games he was playing, he knew it was going to hurt the economy. He knew it was going to potentially push us into a recession. Trump has been saying, he's been calling intentionally on the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates to save us from a recession, to save us from unemployment that his tariffs were going to cause. He was trying to pressure the Fed. The Federal Reserve chairman turned around and said, no, Donald, think adventures. Because of your tariffs, I am not going to lower interest rates to stop a recession. I'm going to actually be forced to raise interest rates and cause a recession because of your tariffs, because we have to fight inflation. So Trump tried to force the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates with his tariffs, and his tariffs have actually caused the Federal Reserve to increase interest rates. So not only did Trump cause it, but it literally backfired on him entirely. Let me read you this from the Wall Street Journal so you'll see I'm not making this up. Stocks fell after NVIDIA announced, this is a second story that's related though. Trump is also now cutting off more computer chips to China in his trade war with China, which screwed NVIDIA, which is a huge American chip company. Stocks fell after NVIDIA announced a big charge to earnings. NVIDIA declined 7%, saying Tuesday it would take a $5 billion charge after the U.S. said it would need a license to export its less powerful chips to China and other countries. The NASDAQ fell 3%, S&P fell 2%. The rout worsened after the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, gave a cautious outlook for the U.S. economy. This is the Wall Street Journal. He warned of a challenging scenario in which large tariffs send consumer prices higher while weakening the economy. Again, this is the Wall Street Journal, which is the conservative financial paper in America. It's akin to the Financial Times in London. And this is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, who is typically very cautious, very cautious with all of this. Plain, don't know who you are, but we're keeping an eye on you, Amanda. Just letting you know. That's usually a warning sign, but maybe not. Let's see if it is. Let me go here. Powell, he warned of a challenging scenario, the Federal Reserve Chairman, in which large tariffs send consumer prices higher, inflation higher, while weakening the economy, possibly forcing the Federal Reserve to choose between focusing on its goal of taming inflation or its mandate to press for a healthy labor market. In other words, the Federal Reserve is having to choose between fighting inflation and fighting unemployment. Powell hinted that the central bank would give priority to its inflation goal over its labor market mandate meaning fighting unemployment. If the two were in conflict, the Fed would attempt to balance the two goals, quote, keeping in mind that without price stability, without fighting inflation, we cannot achieve the long periods of strong labor market conditions that benefit all Americans. Meaning, without fighting inflation, you can't get more employment. So inflation comes first, then jobs. He said the Fed's focus will be to ensure that any one-time price increases from Trump's tariffs don't fuel more persistent price increases. He is going to be fighting inflation, and it is going to cause, at least it will increase significantly the risk of a recession in America. And Donald Trump caused it. Unfreaking believable here. Thank you, Pingu. Thank you, Peoples. There were a lot of gifts here. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Brigitte. I've got a lot of you guys. I saw gifts coming in, but I was in the middle of reading the quote. Peoples, Brigitte, Marsha, more Brigitte, Marsha, Enhu, Darian, Marsha, Steve. Okay, I got a lot of you. Tony. Oh, Tony followed me. That was sweet of you, Tony. Thank you. This is bad. This is very bad. Guys, it's so frustrating because we are literally looking at, okay, Donald Trump inherited a great economy. Inflation was a problem. Inflation was down to 3%. It was low. It should be down to 2%, but inflation was down to 3% when Joe Biden left office. Prices had gone up significantly, again, because of COVID, because of bird flu, not because of Joe Biden, but whatever. Prices had gone up 20%, and they were never coming down because most businesses don't do that, unfortunately, right? Thank you, Poppy, for subscribing. Most businesses, unfortunately, raise prices and they never lower them again. So prices were not coming down, but people were upset about prices not coming down, and that's understandable. Otherwise, the economy, doing amazing. Inflation was down to 3%. That's great. Unemployment, down to like 3.94%. That's great. The economy was growing amazingly. We told you guys this. Nobody believed us. We told you the Biden economy was doing great. Trump said, no, it's a disaster. I'm going to tame inflation. What did Trump do? He came in and he raised inflation with his tariffs. He came in and he increased unemployment with his tariffs. He came in and he shrunk economic growth with his tariffs. And we're all going, what the F here? Like, this is literally the opposite of what we voted for. Right? Supposedly we voted because we were angry about inflation. So we voted for the guy that supposedly promised he was going to fix inflation on day one. And what did he do? Thank you, Sean, for the dino. You know, I'm a big dino fan. Thank you, People News, for subscribing. And who's that? Spider. A lot of gifts today. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. It is incredibly frustrating. And as I said, it's hard to tell you enough how significant it is that the Federal Reserve is now warning, in its terms, it's warning as loudly as it can that Donald Trump is going to cause an inflation problem and a recession and unemployment. And like I said, worst comes to worst, it's going to get worse. And again, don't listen to me. Listen to the Wall Street Journal, the conservative American financial publication, the Wall Street. I don't even need to tell you. I'm assuming people from around the world know what the Wall Street Journal is, right? Right? Just amazing. Amazing. Tarad, I'm assuming you're talking about Trump or something, because I recognize your name, but I'm sure you're not calling me a liar for quoting the Wall Street Journal, right? Just checking. Just checking. Inquiring minds want to know. Yeah, this is really bad. It's just really freaking bad. It boggles my mind. Oh, and the stock market, exactly. I mean, I believe said the stock market's bad enough, right? I mean, that's bad enough, right? I love that. Truthful person who's leaving us says that they're sure I'm a Democrat because I'm quoting the conservative Wall Street Journal and the conservative chairman of the Federal Reserve saying that Trump is going to cause inflation and a recession. Again, the Wall Street Journal is saying it, not me. The chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, is saying it, not me. No, but again, I try not to respond to the trolls, but sometimes it's important to respond to them. Oops. Sometimes it's important to respond to them because it helps bring up a larger point. And it's important to remind people, this is coming from the Wall Street Journal. You know? And that's one of the things, like, you know, if you base a political movement on lies, the lies only get you so far because you can't lie about the economy. At some point, people go to the grocery store and prices have gone up, right? They try to buy computers. They try to buy cars. Oh, Dragon, thank you, Adventures. Like the Dragon Flame. We got a Dragon helmet thing over on TikTok. That's very cool. But you can't hide price increases from consumers. You can't hide the fact that people are getting laid off. You can't hide the fact that Republicans are looking to cut Social Security and Medicare with Elon Musk's people, right? If they screw up Social Security and Medicare, we're going to know it because we get that money or we don't get that money, right? Coffee prices. Anna's talking about coffee prices already going up, right? That's the thing. Oh, that's gotta be Big Hawk. I say with my massaging octopus has got to be Big Hawk. You know, really amazing, really amazing. And again, you will know If your friends are losing jobs, you'll know. If the prices go up, you will know. But it just, again, this really upsets me. I just, and we'll go on with the rest of the stories now, but it's just, they are doing such damage to the economy. It's not clear why. And I told you, I remember and I'll go on with this, but last week I told you guys, I was walking you through the whole inflation versus unemployment conundrum and how you not only cannot fight inflation and unemployment simultaneously, but when you fight inflation, you cause more unemployment. When you fight unemployment, you cause more inflation. And that's exactly what the Federal Reserve chairman said today. Very, very, very upsetting. And by the way, Manda, like I said, the yellow, for example, gets blocked. That's not just a mute, that's a block. Anybody like that should get blocked immediately. Although you did block them. Good for you. Poppy blocked them. Exactly. I keep saying that. Manda is my generic word for moderators, by the way. I'm going to call you all Manda anyway. Hi. Will it be harder to get a job? Yeah. I mean, the whole point is that the economy will slow down. Consumers will start spending less money, which we're already doing. Consumer confidence is at one of the lowest points in history right now. People are worried. They're worried about their retirement money in the stock market, in the 401ks. They're worried about losing their jobs. They're worried about Trump getting rid of half the federal government and getting rid of people's money and income. Social Security possibly going away, not going away, but getting cut back. When you worry about all of that, you spend less money. Consumers are 2/3 of the economy. 2/3 of the U.S. economy is consumer spending. It's you and me spending money the way we normally spend money. If we get worried about what's happening with the economy, we cut back our spending. We save money. We say, you know what? Maybe I won't go out to dinner this month. Maybe I won't buy that thing on Amazon I wanted. Maybe I won't, right? That new thing I was looking at, I'm not going to get. The new phone, I'll wait a year. The new TV, I'll wait a year. And as soon as you start doing that, you risk sending the economy into a recession because 2/3 of the economy is based on you and me spending money. So with all of this going on, we stop spending money. What happens when we stop spending money? Businesses start laying people off because businesses start making less money and they say, holy cow, right? If consumers aren't spending, I can't afford all of these employees. And then you lay people off. And yes, then you would potentially have a harder time finding a job because businesses would be either laying people off or businesses would freeze hiring. Thank you, Marsha. They would freeze hiring because the businesses would be worried about not just the economy, but businesses are worried about tariffs, right? Businesses are going, we don't know what prices are going to be in 3 months. We don't know. Donald Trump said he was pausing some of the tariffs. Remember, he kept 10% tariffs on everything from every country around the world except Russia, but pretty much tariffs on everything. That's 10% right there. That's a lot, right? 10%. You paying 10% out of your pocket for everything is a hell of a lot, right? If your monthly expenses are $4,000, they're now $4,400. That's a lot. $400 a month. That's $4,800 a year more, right? 10% is not small in terms of extra money. Thank you, Jocelyn. Anyway, this is very upsetting to me. Let's move on. Wall Street Journal. A federal judge found that the Trump administration willfully disregarded a court order when it failed to return planes full of migrants on their way to a prison in El Salvador and has ordered the government to act quickly to avoid possible prosecution for criminal contempt. District Judge James Boasberg in Washington said in a Wednesday order there was probable cause to find the Trump administration officials in contempt of court. He ordered the government by next week to either show him an attempt to remedy the violation or provide information from administration officials under oath about the decision. Basically, what happened here was we are having a constitutional crisis play out in America. Donald Trump's employees, his staff, are refusing to abide by court rulings. In America, you're not allowed to refuse a court order or you go to prison, basically. It is a crime. It is a felony to ignore a court order. And Trump's people, Trump has been, he's got a deal with the dictator of El Salvador. And he's paying him $6 million currently to put people in prison that we want to get rid of. Currently, it's foreigners that are in the U.S., but he says Trump also wants to send American citizens to these torture prisons in El Salvador. Trump literally said this on camera in the Oval Office, and the White House spokesperson backed him up and said, we're looking into it, whether they can do it legally, to literally deport Americans to torture camps in the El Salvador dictatorship. It's crazy stuff. Thank you, Marsha. Well, what happened was Trump put a bunch of these immigrants on a plane and send them to like El Salvador, maybe I forget where else, Venezuela, wherever the hell else it was, El Salvador. And the judge ordered Trump to stop. The judge said, that's illegal. Turn that plane around. The Trump people said, no, we don't believe you. We don't believe you have the power to tell us what to do. Here's the problem. In America's judicial system, when a judge says to do something, you either do it, or if you're allowed to, you appeal. But again, typically the judge will give you a period of time. If you haven't appealed, you haven't won your appeal, the appeals court has not weighed in and said, okay, we'll hold off, then you have to do it. It doesn't matter if you think the judge is wrong. And I'm a lawyer, but I shouldn't need to explain this to you. We don't want people going to court and a court making a determination. We don't want Democrats or Republicans saying, I just don't believe the court is right, so I'm not going to listen to the judge. Right? You don't want Democrats or Republicans doing that, because that is how our system melts down. That is literally a crime, right? That is literally the beginnings of a dictatorship where government officials do whatever they want in violation of the law. So the Trump people refused to turn the plane around. And that case today in court was about whether these guys should be criminally sanctioned. They committed a crime. The problem is, and this is where the constitutional crisis comes in, how do you punish these people if they committed a crime? Well, here's the problem. The judge has a couple options. If he determines or she determines that these Trump officials committed a crime by disobeying the judge's order, he can put a monetary fine on them. He can even send them to prison. Who's going to enforce the monetary fine? The court doesn't do it. The Justice Department does it. Is Donald Trump's Justice Department going to enforce a monetary fine against Donald Trump's White House? No. The judge could say, you'll go to jail until you obey my order. Is Donald Trump's FBI going to arrest a Donald Trump White House official? Really? Right? Of course they're not. There's literally nothing they can do. They can't deport them to a prison, Jen. That's the problem. Guess who would have to deport them to a prison? Donald Trump's Department of Justice would have to do it. Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security would have to deport them potentially. Donald Trump's head of Homeland Security is not going to deport White House officials from Donald Trump, right? This is where the constitutional crisis comes in. Thank you, Kieran, for the gift. This is the constitutional crisis, is that a court of law can order Trump to do something, and Trump can commit a crime, which he's now doing, according to the court, by saying no. The punishment is that the official saying no goes to jail. The official saying no pays a fine. But Donald Trump has to be the person who enforces the fine. Donald Trump has to be the person who arrests his own staff and sends them to prison for following Donald Trump's orders. The third thing he can do, Trump can also potentially have a pardon, depending. Now, it depends, and I'm not sure, remind me, I want to think contempt. No, because this is criminal contempt. This is not civil contempt, right? This would be considered criminal contempt. So Trump could pardon the officials as well. He could say, you're not guilty anymore. I'm going to pardon you. You're no longer guilty. Now, one interesting thing that I was wondering about, though, is if Trump, can the judge just keep going? For example, thank you, Marsha. Can Trump say, well, you disobeyed the judge's order, I'm going to pardon you. The judge can't come after you. The judge can say, that's fine, but I'm ordering you again. You pardoned my order from yesterday. I'm ordering you again to return the plane. So we're not talking about yesterday's order. We're talking about today's order. And Trump would have to pardon them again today. So Trump would have to pretty much pardon them every day. And the judge would have to go after them every day. It's crazy. Thank you, user. Thank you, Heather. And yes, he can pardon them before a trial. Well, let me be more specific about that. You can pardon someone before a trial, but I am 99% sure you can, 99.9% sure you can't pardon someone for a future crime. You can pardon them for past crimes. So if you committed a crime let's talk about this example. Sorry, my nose is itching. If you committed a crime 2 weeks ago and you disobeyed the judge's order to bring that plane of migrants back to the U.S., I am a lawyer, man, yes. I law degree from Georgetown. If you disobey the judge's order 2 weeks ago and you didn't bring the migrants back to the U.S., okay, that was a crime. Donald Trump can pardon that crime. He can even pardon that crime before the case goes to court. Maybe the case isn't going to court for a month. Trump can pardon the crime, but Trump can only pardon a crime that's already happened. You can't pardon a crime that's happening in the future. So, for example, Trump can pardon his officials who refused to listen to the judge last week. Trump cannot pardon them today for possibly refusing the judge next week, right? He can pardon you today for a crime you already committed, even if the court case hasn't happened yet, right? So before you're even indicted, he can say, no, I'm pardoning you. You're no longer responsible for that crime you did last week. He cannot pardon you for a crime you might do next week. A pre-pardon, exactly what Sarah just said, a pre-pardon. So the judge could say, that's fine. You've exonerated your staff for the crime they did last week. I'm ordering them to do it again. And if they refuse me today, it's another crime today. But as Blinn just said, he'll just keep pardoning them. And the constitutional crisis will continue. There is no solution. There is no solution. Apaka said, what's the solution? There is none. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if anybody smarter than me has come up with one. You know, he's just going to keep saying no to the courts. And the really scary thing is that, again, then we are no longer a nation of laws. Then we are a dictatorship, because then we literally have the president refusing to obey the law and committing crimes as if he's a convicted felon. Right? Very scary stuff. Very scary stuff. George, sorry, but you're doing a little timeout for that. Mods, George is going to have to get a timeout for that because we can't have that kind of talk in the comments. Fight on Joel. I understand what Joel says. His father's a judge, or hers, and you cannot pardon contempt. The only thing is, I'm pretty sure, and we've got to be clear about this, I believe there's two kinds of, I'm a lawyer, but I don't practice law. So, you know, I can get things wrong, and I'm human. I believe there's two kinds of contempt: criminal contempt and civil contempt. Civil contempt, you can't pardon. Criminal contempt, I believe you can, because it's a crime. It's not a civil offense. Any practicing lawyers out there, although you'd have to be a constitutional lawyer, help me out on this. Am I correct on this? I mean, again, I can ask ChatGPT, but ChatGPT gets things wrong, you know? Anybody up on their constitutional law? I'm going to look online and ask as well, just to see. Again, ChatGPT, my only concern with ChatGPT is ChatGPT gives you very convincing answers that it's not necessarily clear about. They call them hallucinations. I saw today, which I thought was funny. Let me ask here. I assume there are two kinds of contempt, comma, civil contempt and criminal contempt, period. Am I also correct that a president can pardon criminal contempt but not pardon civil contempt? Or am I wrong? Hang on. All right, let's ask ChatGPT. I think I'm right. But who knows? You're largely correct, but with few nuances. Oh, I love when ChatGPT gets kind of bitchy. I don't practice law either, Joey. That's the problem. And this is constitutional law. It's very specific. Criminal contempt punishes behavior that disrespects the court or obstructs justice. It's punitive in nature, can be pardoned by the president since it is considered a criminal offense. Civil contempt coerces compliance with a court order. It is remedial and coercive. The person, generally not pardonable by the president because the contempt is not considered a criminal offense. Okay. Under Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, the president may grant pardons for offenses against the United States, which has been interpreted to mean criminal offenses. The Supreme Court has confirmed this includes criminal contempt, but the pardon power does not extend to civil contempt. Oh, I was right. So bottom line was ChatGPT thinks I'm correct, but it misunderstood my question. It thought that I said there was no difference or whatever. Now, this doesn't mean ChatGPT is right, but I had looked into this as well last time this came up, and that's the answer I found online researching as well. So I think it's true. Yeah, UCMJ, it doesn't apply to. Yeah, so guys, I don't know what the hell we do. This is, again, the problem overall with all of this. This is a very scary situation, you know? It's very scary. States can issue warrants for state contempt charges. I'm not sure what you mean. Thank you for the dinosaur there. Was that Kieran? DL McNeely was saying, ask ChatGPT how that applies if the president is in criminal contempt. Oh, that's a brilliant question. Oh my God, that's a brilliant question. Oh, good. Bravo. Freaking oh, that's wild. So that was really interesting. So the question there, and Manda, we talked about this, I think, in our chat today about keeping an eye on people that claim there are technical problems, right? Just keep an eye on them because we just had one making me suspicious. That's a really interesting question. That's a fast, and Kyle is getting banned. Kyle's getting blocked, actually. He got mods just to be, don't just mute him, block him as well, Ash. So this is really interesting. The question was, what happens if the president himself commits criminal contempt? Here's why they were asking that question. That was really smart. Currently, it is believed that a president cannot pardon himself. That is the current belief. It has not been tested in court, but people tend to believe he can't pardon himself. Now, Trump's judges may change that, right? If the judge finds that Trump himself is in criminal contempt, Trump has committed a felony, Trump's Justice Department will not come after Trump. They will not, no. But Trump cannot pardon himself. So Trump will have a felony hanging over his head. And after he leaves office, and here becomes the problem, though. Here becomes the problem. Martin just said it. Will he be able to claim presidential immunity? That's the problem. That's the problem. He may have immunity. Thank you, Jake, because he was, making a presidential decision or whatever. So, but here's the issue. The legal question becomes, one, Trump commits a crime in office by contempt, by refusing a judge's order. Trump cannot pardon himself, most likely, because the pardon power, the president cannot pardon himself. Therefore, maybe a Democratic administration can go after Trump after he leaves office, unless the Supreme Court ruling recently that exonerated the president from many crimes committed in office applies to this crime as well. And I don't know if it does. But he's going to claim it and he may get it, which is very scary. Very scary. Yeah. Man, oh man. Is it, and by the way, thank you, Jake. I saw the gift membership pop in. I was in the middle of a roll. Kaylin, I see you got it. That's good. Right. It depends if it's an official act. Again, that gets hard to define because clearly, here's the problem too. Clearly, well, okay, I shouldn't say clearly. I don't know what the legal definition is of an official act. What worries me is Trump was working on a policy issue when he disobeyed the judge. He didn't go in the street and push the judge down and break their arm, right? He didn't shoot the judge, right? It wasn't a personal thing he did, a personal crime. It was an official crime. They were working on a policy issue and Trump ignored the judge's ruling as part of his policy implementation. It's a crime, but is it a crime in furtherance of his what did we say, official acts? Arguably, yeah, it was an official crime, but it was an official act. So the Supreme Court might say, well, if he commits crimes while acting officially as president, doing an official thing, which implementing legislation or implementing immigration is, they might let him get away with that. This is really scary. Wow. That's really scary. Wow. Hi. All right. There's a lot more stories here, guys. El Salvador's dictator Nayib Bukele says he plans to double the size of the maximum security prison where his government is holding U.S. deportees. Trump told Bukele during the White House meeting the other day, you got to build about 5 more of these torture prisons. And I'm calling them torture prisons. Trump said places. Bukele says, we've got space. Trump says it's not big enough. So now they're talking about doubling the size. And these are literally torture prisons, torture camps. Very scary. Wall Street Journal had the creepiest article today about Elon Musk's never-ending supply of babies. I'm going to read you this because it's really creepy. And I have to say, if this was a Democrat doing this, it would be like, and a Democrat working out of the White House, who is arguably, putatively the vice president practically, or co-president that Elon is, Democrats would be in real trouble if they did this. This is the Wall Street Journal. Elon Musk has had at least 14 children with 4 women, including the pop musician Grimes and Siobhan Zillis, an executive at his brain company computer Neuralink. Okay, just to be clear, Musk impregnated one of the top executives at his own company he runs. Right? In American employment law, there's a problem here, but we'll let it go. Multiple sources close to the tech entrepreneur say they believe the true number of Musk's children is much higher than publicly known. Guys, he has 14 children with 4 different moms. The true number of children is several sources say is much higher than publicly known. Ew. Musk offered St. Clair $15 million and $100,000 a month in support in exchange for her silence about the child, whom they named Romulus. He named his kid Romulus. Okay. Similar agreements had been negotiated with other mothers of Musk's children. In Musk's dark view of the world, civilization is under threat because of a declining population. He is driven to correct the historic moment by helping seed the earth. This is the Wall Street Journal. By helping seed the earth with more human beings of high intelligence, according to people familiar with the matter. Musk refers to his offspring as a legion, a reference to the ancient military units that could contain thousands of soldiers and were key to expanding the reach of the Roman Empire. During St. Clair's pregnancy, Musk suggested that they bring in other women to have even more of their children faster. Quote, to reach legion level before the apocalypse, he said to Claire in a text message viewed by the Wall Street Journal, we will need to use surrogates. He has recruited potential mothers on his social media platform X, according to some of the people. Musk has used his wealth to buy the silence of some women who have his kids, according to St. Clair, as well as others. Text messages and documents reviewed by the Journal. Non-disclosure clauses are part of some of the payment agreements. If the mothers push back or seek outside counsel, Musk has threatened them with financial retribution. He's even gotten into Twitter conversations with women, according to the article. And if the conversation, this is from the Wall Street Journal, if the conversation went really well, he then approaches them about becoming a mom. I'm just reading you the Wall Street Journal. That's all what I just said the last couple of minutes was literally reading the Wall Street Journal. I mean, this guy is the second most important man, or maybe most important, depending how you look at it, in the U.S. government right now. I mean, right. I mean, this is just insane. And again, the conservative Wall Street Journal is saying this about Elon, right? I mean, what happened to the Wall Street Journal? What does that mean, Helion? What happened to the Wall Street Journal is they wrote a really good article about Elon Musk. What are you talking about? You're normally pretty good here. You're confusing me as to what you're writing. Romulus is the name of the wolf. Romulus is not the name of the wolf that was founder of Rome. Romulus was one of the 2 founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus. The wolf, I don't know if the wolf had a name, but Romulus and Remus were the 2 children that suckled the wolf. And actually, Romulus and Remus did not actually found Rome. Romulus founded Rome, correct. Remus did not found. Actually, let me work on this. I read it the other day. One of them ended up dying. I forgot if they killed each other or whatever it is. Okay, I assumed you weren't doing that, Helion. Yeah, I was going to say, what are you talking about? I know, because I know you're a normal person. The wolf was Lula, but Remus died. Okay, thank you. Because I would say one of them died. Romulus, it figures Romulus, Roma would be the one that was the Rome founder itself. I don't know. I forgot. I literally read about this the other day when I was in Rome, and I'm forgetting whether Romulus and Remus together founded Rome. I think Romulus and Remus founded 2 different towns, I think. And like I said, Remus got killed. Remus, I think, was a troublemaker. But in any case, oh my God. Yeah. So that's the Wall Street Journal. Elon Musk. Oh, so this is great. Sorry, Marco Rubio. Guys, the news is pretty bad today. I mean, the news is pretty bad. Listen to this. This is all actually Wall Street Journal. I subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal had a ton of interesting stories today. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced today the closure of the State Department office responsible for countering foreign disinformation, citing concerns about free speech and the rights of American citizens. He is going to save a whopping $50 million by shutting down an office meant to counter mostly the Russians and the Russian misinformation around the world against the United States. Okay? $50 million. Now, I'm going to read the rest of the story from the Wall Street Journal, but keep in mind, Trump administration is shutting down an office whose main goal is to stop the Russians from lying about America in Africa and Asia and around the world, to counter the Russian lies meant to take down our country. Why would, for $50 million, I got news for you. $50 million is nothing in the overall budget. They're not saving any money at all. They're not saving any money at all. And they're shutting down an office that is meant to counter Russia's attempts to harm the United States. Sound familiar, right? The office started as part of the U.S. government's effort to fight terrorists online. It was first called blah, blah, blah. In 2016, it changed its focus to fighting lies and propaganda from foreign governments like Russia and China and got a new name. Among other issues they took on, the Russians were sowing disinformation about the coronavirus. It also exposed a major Russian disinformation campaign in Africa. The office has published 4 major public exposures of Russian disinformation campaigns in Latin America, Africa, Moldova, and via the Russian state media outlet RT. Oh, I'm sure that really pissed them off, the Trump people, that they went after RT. As well as it released 8 detailed public reports on Russian and Chinese operations. According to the center's own assessment, China, which often works in lockstep with the Kremlin disinformation efforts, has now invested billions of dollars to exert government control globally and exploit international organizations through disinformation and propaganda. In January, the GEC spearheaded an agreement to counter foreign disinformation that blah, blah, blah. Let me see. The GEC's operation in Africa was its largest yet, exposing a complex Kremlin-backed plan called the Africa Initiative that had been set in motion to undermine U.S. and Western influence across Africa by amplifying disinformation online about U.S.-funded health programs. The Russian campaign enlisted independent journalists, bloggers, and public leaders to help spread conspiracy theories critical of the health programs across websites, social media, and Telegram. The U.S. has killed the program meant to stop the Russians from lying about us around the world. The only person happy, actually, there's 2 people happy about this, Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin. Elon went after this program 2 years ago and called it the worst program of all. They target American citizens. Yeah. I mean, I am blown away. I am absolutely blown away about this. Everything we do. Keep in mind, what else did Trump do 2 weeks ago? He shut down Voice of America, Radio Liberty, Radio Free Europe, right? Radio Marti. These were radio stations, basically, like broadcast stations that would beam information into the Soviet Union, or now dictatorial Russia, or the dictators in China, or the dictators in Cuba. And we would beam information in so their citizens could get information. And now it was shut down. Again, who benefits from no longer beaming information into Cuba? The Russians do. Who benefits from no longer beaming information into China? The Chinese, in this case. Communist China. Who benefits from no longer beaming information into Russia? The Russian, Putin. Every single one of these stories makes sense if you're Vladimir Putin. It makes sense if you're Vladimir Putin. All right, we do have a little bit of Ukraine news. Let's do our Ukraine news, and then we'll open this up to everybody. It is day 1,145 of Vladimir Putin's special military operation, 3-day military operation in Ukraine. A high-level U.S. delegation, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Trump's special Ukraine envoy Steve Witkoff, are traveling to Paris this evening for talks with European partners about Ukraine. That should be interesting. Here's the problem. I'm not sure. I'm intrigued that Rubio and Witkoff are going to meet the Europeans. I'm not sure why. Trump doesn't care what the Europeans think, so I don't quite know why they're briefing the Europeans. Rubio is very weak. Linda's correct. Linda says Rubio's weak. Rubio has no power in this administration. Witkoff is Trump's right-hand guy on Ukraine. Witkoff is the guy who said Ukraine should just give up all of its land to the Russians. He's the bad guy here. Marco is totally irrelevant. So I'm not quite sure what the point is of going to the Europeans. Maybe at some point Trump realizes the Europeans control most of the sanctions on Russia. Certainly not most of the sanctions, but they certainly control all the money. Like most of the $300 billion in Russian money has been frozen. Most of that money is frozen by the Europeans. The Americans have, I want to say, beep, 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 25, maybe 25%. Yeah, maybe 26, 27, 28% of the money the Americans control. The rest of it's controlled by the Europeans. So they may need the Europeans for some of this. Thank you, Catherine, for the gifts. Keep the gifts coming, guys. Kyiv and Washington have made substantial progress, thank you, Helene, in their talks to finally sign a minerals deal, according to a senior Ukrainian official. Ukraine's first deputy prime minister says the deal is well on its way towards being signed. We'll see. This was interesting, however. Trump has extended sanctions on Russia and Russian-affiliated vessels, ships. According to the Federal Registry, Trump earlier signed an executive order extending sanctions against Russia for 1 year, originally imposed by Joe Biden in April 2021. I'm intrigued. I mean, good. I'm a little surprised. I thought Trump would have had these sanctions come up for renewal and would have said, you know what, let's do Putin a favor and it'll make him be nice to us too. He kept the sanctions in place as a bargaining chip. I'm pleased and surprised. Let's say that. I am. No, this is good. I hope this isn't the last time I say this about Trump and Ukraine or any other issue, but this is very good. Finally, former Kursk Oblast governor Smirnov and his deputy are accused of embezzling over 1 billion rubles, $12 million, from the budget allocated to the Kursk Oblast Development Corporation for the construction of fortifications on the border with Ukraine. So this is the funny story. The governor of, I'll get my map out. The governor of this region, Kursk, which is up here in Ukraine, this is the region the Ukrainians invaded and have taken some Russian land. The governor of the region has been arrested for taking money that was meant to protect the region and protect the border. It's right on the border with Ukraine, and instead embezzling it and taking the money for himself, which I just think is absolutely hilarious. It's good to see it, because this is part of Russia's problem is, Russia can do whatever it wants to try to, fight Ukraine or whatever. At its core, Russia is still a very corrupt. We've got a lot of corruption, but Russia's corruption is like off the charts. So it's very funny. All right. That is the news for the day. Now we hang out and we take questions and comments and everything else. Let me get my cameras adjusted so I can sit back a little bit here. There we go. Oy. All right. There we go. All right. Hopefully you're not falling over on me. All right. Hello, guys. Hello. So yes, we can talk about, my God, Trump, the economy, Ukraine. Who has more leverage, China? I forgot to mention that. Leverage with whom? If you mean the economic stuff, actually, user 290 might mean this. Maybe you don't. Trump said something pretty hilarious yesterday, the day before. But the Trump White House people are trying to, we're in this trade war, the tariff war. We're in this trade war with China. And the Chinese have basically said, screw you, to the U.S., to the Trump administration. A lot of governments freaked out and sent envoys and stuff to, oh my God, please, Donald, don't be mean to us. The Chinese literally said, you got tariffs? We'll put more tariffs. And the Chinese now, they're refusing to buy Boeing planes and plane parts. They're refusing to buy American meat. They're turning to the Australians instead. They're refusing to sell minerals and things that we need for our semiconductors, all this kind of stuff. So the Chinese, and we think the Chinese are also selling American treasury bonds, which is, tanking the market. So the Chinese are screwing with us left. Again, they're doing a good job of this. They're screwing with Trump left and right. Trump put massive tariffs on China, right? So what happens? Trump yesterday says, well, China, it's in China's hands. China really should be brokering a deal. China really should be coming to us and seeking peace. It's in China's hands. Come on, China. And I forgot the Chinese did something else. Actually, the Chinese they put out a video making fun of JD Vance. And literally it was making him like as a drag queen. They made fun of the Caroline Leavitt's clothes, because she was talking about don't buy Chinese goods. Like, we don't need Chinese goods. And the dress she was wearing, the red dress, was made in China. And the Chinese government people literally found a copy of her dress and printed it from the Chinese website. They are but the best part was Trump yesterday going, "Come on, China, it's up to you now." I gotta see if I can find the. I don't think I'm gonna find the quote. It was the quote was hilarious though, because it was literally like Trump going, "Come on, like I've sanctioned you. I put tariffs. This is supposed to work. It's not working. Why aren't you coming to me and begging?" Hold on, Trump, China tariffs. Let me see if I can find the quote. Like I said, it was hilarious. I don't think I'm going to find it though. Let me see if I can find this. Deep. Oh, I don't think I'm going to find this. Let me see here really quick. China, this is from The Independent in the UK. China has warned Donald Trump to stop whining about being a victim of tariffs in the escalating trade war. Oh, that is hilarious. Oh, this is great. So Trump today, this is hilarious. Trump yesterday, I'm sorry, he's exuding weakness with this whole thing. Trump is now claiming the tariffs on China aren't 100. Remember how first, like, it was 10% tariffs, but it was 20% tariffs, 40, like nobody knew how many tariffs there were. Then Trump's tariffs with China were like 80%. Then they were 125%. Then the next day he said, no, it's actually 145%, not 125%. We counted wrong. And we all went, you counted wrong. You don't even know what your tariffs are. Well, yesterday, the White House said it's actually not 145%. It's 245%. And that's when the Chinese responded and said, oh, stop whining. A couple things here. Once the price of Chinese goods doubles, Trump's tariff of 145% is actually more than doubling. It's like doubling and a half the price of Chinese goods coming into the US. Once you put it to 245%, you've tripled and a half. You've tripled and a half the price of anything from China. So anything you buy from China is going to go up now 3.5 times in price, right? Once you do that, there's no point in saying we're raising the tariffs even more, because the tariffs already mean trade is not going to happen anymore between the US and China. Well, China's our third largest trade partner. We buy a lot of stuff from China. The whole reason Trump's upset is we buy a lot of stuff. It's not like we buy stuff we don't need, right? A lot of our clothes come from China. Do you plan on stop buying clothes? 77% of America's toys come from China. You going to stop buying toys for your children? Or are you going to pay 3.5 times the price, which is what we're looking at now? But also Trump claimed the tariff was 125%. Then he said, oh, I calculated it wrong. It's actually 145%. Now they're saying, oh, we calculated it wrong. It's really 245%. Listen to this. A fact sheet published by the White House on Tuesday said China now faces up to a 245% tariff. Hold on. I'm going to find this because a couple different sources are saying this. Where is this? Yeah. More from USA Today. Amid a tense trade war with China, a White House statement that some Chinese goods face 245% tariffs generated confusion in Beijing. Was it another escalation? No. Trump's new tariffs on China still stand at 145%. But the White House quickly tried to clear things up, saying the 245% figure they put in an April 15th document represents all previous and new tariffs on some Chinese goods dating to the Biden and first Trump administrations. Asked for comment on the data from the White House, a Chinese official responded that it was up to U.S. officials to provide answers. I love that. Sasha's walking around. The Chinese official got asked and said, do you have a comment on Trump claiming this is now 245%? The Chinese official responded, actually, it's up to the White House to explain their own numbers. It's not up to us. Which is very funny because basically they're going, you're right. None of this makes sense. Why are you asking us? Make him try to prove that what he's telling isn't bullshit. You can take this number to the U.S. side for an answer, the foreign ministry spokesman said. This is hilarious. He's out of his mind. Oh, here's the Trump quote. Trump said on April 15th that it's up to China to strike a deal to end the trade war. Quote, the ball is in China's court. China needs to make a deal with us. We don't have to make a deal with them, Trump said. To me, that sounds like you're desperate. The ball's in China's court. They need to make a deal with us. They really do. Why do they have to make a deal with you? Why? They don't seem to be caring about making a deal. If anything, they just cut off our farmers from meat. They just cut off, I know the wig will come out. They just cut off Boeing, our aircraft manufacturers. The Chinese seem to be pretty content right now with screwing American farmers and screwing the American public. Like I said, 77% of your toys come from China. Trump claims he just increased the price of those toys 3 times. I mean, if he did that, that would be very bad. Like, if he really put a 245% tariff on toys, man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Unbelievable. I mean, no, China, I'm sure this is hurting China, but you don't think it's hurting Trump? The fact that Trump remember how Trump put the 125, no, it's 145% tariff on China. And then the next day he had to remove 40% of the tariffs because he freaked out. Remember? Because everyone freaked out and said, you just increased the price of iPhones by 150%. You just doubled and half more the price of an iPhone. So a $1,000 iPhone is now $2,500. Are you crazy? And Trump said, okay, we're exempting iPhones and we're exempting computers. 40% of trade with China. And then he turned around and said, no, we're not. We're actually putting a 20% tariff on iPhones. Oh, so a $1,000 iPhone is now going to be $1,400. Thanks, Donald. Right? But he kept going back and forth. But what the Chinese saw was as soon as Trump put tariffs on China, he freaked out because of public pressure. And he eliminated 40% of the tariffs. The TikTok deal is dead in the water right now, Ryan, because they don't want to. The Chinese publicly said the Americans can screw it if they think China is going to agree to any deal with TikTok, because they don't want to do anything to help Trump right now, and they look at it as Trump wants to save TikTok, so too bad. Yeah, TikTok deal is in trouble because of Trump. Big surprise. Keep in mind, the whole reason that America wanted to ban TikTok, it was Donald Trump's idea in the first place. Google it. Donald Trump is the one who came up with the idea to ban TikTok in America. It was his idea. He was on Air Force One, and he did one of his usual eruptions where stuff comes out of his mouth, and you go, what are you doing? Trump said, let's ban TikTok. A month later, he issued an executive order trying to ban TikTok. 3 times during his presidency, the last time Trump tried to ban TikTok, and he failed. It was only after meeting a rich donor like a year ago that Trump suddenly went, oh, okay. Rich donor who's an investor in TikTok's parent company. I've seen God. We don't know what happened, but behind closed doors, the rich donor in TikTok, who's also a rich donor to Trump, suddenly convinced Trump to be supportive of TikTok. Now, I'm glad Trump's supporting TikTok because I'd like TikTok to stay around. But something funny happened, right? So China looks at it now as saying, okay, even though Trump was the one who came up with the TikTok ban, Trump also is desperate to save TikTok. So why should you come on in, miss crap on your face? What a surprise. Oh my God. Thank you. Dirt all over your face. Jesus Christ. Of course, my dog had to go out and eat dirt because what else is new? Oh my God. Anyway. Hey, Penguin, good to see you. I did see you pop in earlier. If Penguin's still there. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm not sure what to say about it, Frumple. There's a weird story, and I'm not sure what to make of it, but that I think it was the National Labor Relations Board, one of the government agencies, that as soon as the Doge children, Elon's little children who have been going and dismantling all of our agencies, as soon as Elon's little Doge children went into one of these government agencies and accessed the computer, the Russians immediately hacked the computer. And it was a little strange that basically it was like simultaneously with Elon's people getting access to the computer, the Russians hacked it. And there's concern as to how did that happen? Was it intentional? Was it negligent? Are these guys so negligent that they gave the Russians access? Are these guys corrupt and they gave the Russians access. I mean, in a normal administration, this would be highly concerning, right? Again, intentional or negligent, who knows? But it would be highly concerning. With these guys, right? The Russians break in immediately. The second Elon staff gets access to these computers, right? Did they leave stuff laying around? Oh, this is go Google it, David. This story is all over the place today. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to talk about it because we don't know anything more about it. We just know it was a very strange coincidence. But Google the story. It's everywhere today. So anyway. Oh, good. Martin says Canada is about to curtail energy supplies to the U.S. when 2 contracts end at the end of the month. Oh, I didn't see that they're still doing that. Are they? Ooh, are they? Ooh, let me see this. Ooh, Canada, energy, U.S. They were going to because Canada provides a lot of energy to New York and I think maybe Minnesota or something. Let me see. Oh, Canara, not Canara. Canada. Nope, there's no new articles around. No, there's nothing new. Maybe it's coming soon, but there's nothing new. Well, no. Canada announces new support for Canadian businesses affected by the U.S. No. I'll look at no, there's no news on it though. Yeah, maybe, but it's not popping up yet. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they talked about doing it. Everyone's saying Manitoba. All right, Canadians. Let me look one more time with Manitoba Energy US, but there's no articles popping up. So Manitoba Energy United States. Let's try that. Oh, okay. There's some stuff popping up. Let me see here. Premier Wab Kinew, what a name. Wab Kinew said he has ordered Manitoba Hydro not to renew 500 megawatts worth of expiring hydroelectricity export contracts to the U.S. Oh, okay. The Provincial Crown Corporation, however, said it has no plans to renew the contracts, which are slated to expire at the end of the month. He's repatriating 2 contracts. We saw that there's 500 megawatts of export contracts that are expiring at the end of the month. So we decided as Canadians and as Manitobans that we are going to use that power to build up our own economy here at home. Interesting. Good. Okay. Interesting to see what happens with that. But right. So that's very interesting. So basically energy that the Americans were buying, the Canadians are no longer going to do it. Interesting. No Iran news. No, there's no Iran news. Nope. Not that I saw. I assume Wab is the premier. Yes. That interesting name though. Wab. Is it First Nations? Okay. I was going to say that name sounded very different. Wab Kinew or Kinew, or who knows how you pronounce it. I mean, you may know how to pronounce it. Yep. Okay. And by the way, for the rest of you who, like me, had no idea what First Nations mean, it's the Canadian word for like native. So we would say Native Americans. They say First Nations in Canada for the, Inuit, Eskimo, whatever word I'm using words that people would understand because the problem is Inuit's another word a lot of people would not know, actually. First Peoples, First Nations, First Peoples. Okay. I heard that word the first time when I went to Ottawa, in 2016 and I was like, or 15, I was like, oh, or 16. 15. Yeah. I was like, I'd never heard that before. Indigenous. You guys use Indigenous too. I don't like that word. That was another word that somebody in Canada used with me. And I was like, for an American, Indigenous sounds creepy. I'm sorry. But Indigenous sounds like, to me at least, Indigenous still has borders of, British people with monocles 100 years ago visiting the indigenous or Aboriginal. That was the word. Aboriginal is another word they use. Aboriginal 1000% means little people in Australia in the outback or Africa or something. It is in American English, Aboriginal. I would in a million years, I wouldn't use that about Native Americans or whatever. It literally sounds like you're talking about little people in Africa. I mean, it is like imperialist language from 100 years ago. Yeah. Ooh, you stopped using Aboriginal? That's good. Because somebody did mention Aboriginal to me 10 years ago. And I told her, oh God, I said, as an American, I cannot use that word. There's no way. But even indigenous isn't as bad, but indigenous still sounds like you're talking about, a new type of bird that we found that's indigenous to the region. It just sounds scientifically weird. Or Aboriginals or Australians. Yeah. It just sounds like a weird scientific term for people, Yeah. So anyway. Dude, you're about to be muted for being kind of a jerk. Bye. Bye-bye. Where's my Greek? Let's use the little goat. Little goat. Yeah, it's a matter of different words in different countries and how they work, So, but in America, yeah. Even Aborigines, I kind of think to me, that sounds like an old word that would be archaic American English that we wouldn't want to say about anybody anymore, right? Or do you still use that in Australia for a group? I mean, is that considered okay to use that word about a group of people in the outback or wherever they are? Any Australians? I know it's kind of a weird time of the day for you guys over there. But for American English, makes me a little nervous. In Australia, they still use the word. I mean, meaning normal people use the word. It's okay. Interesting. Wow. Yeah, because Aborigines, it just sounds like an old imperialist word that we might have used in the 1970s that we don't use anymore. As an American, I'd be like, ooh, I don't know. An American English speaker, yeah. Yeah, indigenous isn't as negative. Indigenous just sounds a little too scientific. Like I said, like an indigenous bird species. It just sounds a little, Anyway. Oh, interesting. If you're in group, if you're indigenous, you'll say native because that was the politically correct term in the 90s and 2000s. Well, I don't even know what the Alaskans use now, because when I was working for the state of, for the government of, the senator from Alaska, this was the early 1990s, and we would use Native Alaskans was the term back then, or Alaska Natives. So I don't even know what they use now. The term, it's been 30 years. The terms could have changed. So Inuit, yeah, Inuit, but I think Arctic, I think even tried to explain this to me. Inuit is some of them, but not all of them. I think it's part of them. It's still Alaska Native. Okay, thank you, Ruben. Okay, because that's what we learned. Yeah, like Native Alaskans or Alaska Natives. Yep. But again, Inuit was this overarching term that doesn't apply to, and Arctic just said Métis and Inuit are not First Nations. See, so that's part of the problem too, is it's a specific, it is still a specific group that is not all of them. Tlingit? I mean, I know Tlingit. They have beautiful art, by the way. Love the Tlingit. Tlingit stuff is out of my price range. Very pretty stuff. Oh my God. That's always been my favorite, actually, of all the Alaskan stuff, or Northwest, I guess, would be Tlingit. Absolutely my favorite. Oh my God. My favorite artwork. I say artwork, but any of the, the crafts. Oh, beautiful, beautiful stuff. God, but it's very expensive stuff. There's three groups: First Nations, Métis. I've never even heard of Métis. And Inuit, is Métis a Canadian thing? But that's not true. Even in Alaska, not everybody's Inuit. Isn't like Athabascan a different group or something? Or would they be Métis? In Alaska, you've got two groups though. Not everybody's Inuit, I think, right? Again, I never worked on these issues, but working with Alaska, you learn stuff, Well, there's many native tribes, but we're talking about the overarching terms. Métis are Canadians. Okay. But even for Inuits, not all the Alaskan natives are Inuits. Right? This is getting a little wonky here, but nonetheless. Athabascan is First Nations? Get out of here. Do they say that? I know Métis. I think of Métis as being mestizo or whatever. Yeah. Oh, Métis? Oh, you're saying it in French. Okay. Sorry. I wasn't thinking you were. Oui, je peux le dire en français si tu veux. It's Métis because it's a French word. Okay. I was trying to speak American here, guys. Don't want to get banned by the Americans. But yes, Métis. Métis. But I believe it's mestizo, right? It's the same. Is it Mistec? Not Mistec. I'm trying to think what we'd say in English for that. Distinct indigenous people in Canada. Did not know that. Had never heard the word before. Interesting. Okay. I mean, not for anybody up north. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, enough of that topic. I don't want to get too wonky for folks. What else? Anything else going on? Any of these issues? Politics overall? Métis are a mix of French maternal and Euro-French paternal. Oh, so they are Métis or whatever. Right. Right. Oh, I guess mestizos are too, right? In Latin America. Mestizos, I'm going to guess, are native communities mixed with Spanish-blooded, probably, right? I'm trying to remember, but I think that's what I just remember the term mestizos when studying Spanish, but I don't quite remember who they were anymore. I assume it's got to be who they are. Yes, everybody's saying yes. Okay. I mean, who else would they be, right? But sí. Gracias, Selene or Selene. If you're Perez, you could be a Selene, I guess. I'll say Selene. Make your name French. Russia wants Alaska back. Russia likes to talk about that every once. Russia, in their sort of their annoyance thing, is just to sort of, they just say that every once in a while. Russia says we want Alaska back, just to annoy people. It's what they do. We ignore them. We ignore them. Anyway. What else? Exactly. Well, doesn't even matter if it was sold to us fair and square. Russia's good luck. I would love to see Russia try to get Alaska back. It would make my day. That's the thing. Russia is not as strong. Russia is much weaker than many countries. Russia's military sucks compared to the US. Russia's economic power sucks compared to, Russia is a small power in the world, economically, especially. We're the largest economy in the world. We've also got the strongest military. Good luck, Russia. I mean, they like to, this is why the Trump stuff is very annoying, because Trump is willing to put Russia on a pedestal, treating them as if they're the Soviet Union. 30 years ago, Russia didn't matter economically, really, but they mattered militarily. Now, yeah, they're a pain in the ass. I mean, yeah, but a lot of countries are a pain in the ass. Economically, they don't matter at all. Their economy is terrible and small. Culturally, as I've said, they don't have any influence culturally anymore. Right? People like to point out Russian books written 150 years ago. Okay, that's nice. They did write good books 150 years ago, but you just don't have probably the Brits. There's a culture, right, that is being promoted around the world still. Russia, and their military is much smaller. We could, our military, Russia's would be like, Russia can cause a lot of havoc in Europe. We would still win if we went to war with them, but it'd be, and again, so they have enough power to be a pain in the ass. They have enough power to cause a lot of damage, but not win against us. So whenever they talk about stuff like, we're going to take Alaska, it's like, grow up. It's their effort to try to say, we're equal to you. And it's the same thing they do to the Brits too. They love to pick on the Brits. And I think it's because they're jealous as hell, so. I did see that. Jens mentioned European Union officials traveling to the U.S. are being issued burner phones. Basically, they're being given special phones to use when they come to the U.S. that they can throw away afterwards in case the Trump officials try to either spy on them or at the border try to look at their phones or whatever. Yeah, very sad. This is the kind of thing that they typically have to do when going to Russia or China, basically dictatorships. And now they're having to do it when visiting the U.S. too. Very, very sad. So, will there be tariffs for Russia? I don't think so. Is Katy Perry an astronaut? Officially, yes. Yes, she officially is. I believe you have to go to whatever sphere, and she made it. I think she made it. I don't know whether it's the stratosphere or ionosphere. I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sure she made it. So Katy Perry is an astronaut now. Yep. Astronaut musician. Oh no, NASA changed the rules. Get out. Oh, did they, Joshua? Get out of here. I knew I shouldn't have said yes so quickly. Is it true? That's so funny. They changed the rules. Couldn't you see NASA being like, we don't like all these people going to space? Well, I don't even know how to rules for being called an astronaut? I'm not even sure how to say this correctly. In the U.S., astronauts are generally recognized by the FAA and the U.S. military based on the altitude they reach. For commercial space missions, the FAA outlines that those who fly above 50 miles, 80 kilometers, and perform essential activities for public or human space flight safety are considered, oh my God, how bitchy. How bitchy. You have to perform essential missions for public or human space flight safety. It's very like prissy, are considered astronauts. Interesting. NASA generally considers anyone who has been part of a space flight as a crew member on a spacecraft bound for orbit or beyond to be an astronaut. But you've got to be in orbit. I don't know. Under FAA rules, space tourists who pay for suborbital, orbital, or orbital flights are generally not considered astronauts. Oh, this is crazy. International law. Some international definitions of astronauts focus on activities in space for the benefit of all, not just altitude. This sounds like it's all over the place. This is all over the place. It depends who you talk to. The FAA, who knew the FAA had a definition of astronauts? I don't know. I honestly don't. I don't know. Actually, NBC News did an article in 2021. Listen to this. Who gets to be called an astronaut? It's complicated. Now, this article's 3 years old. I'm going to pull up ChatGPT for this. Although, again, we worry about ChatGPT because it's got a bit of an ego. Is Katy Perry? How do you spell her name? Perry or Par? Is Katy Perry now an? Hold on. Now an astronaut. Let's see what ChatGPT says. Oh, it says yes. On April 14th, she participated in Blue Origin's suborbital space flight. The flight lasted 10 minutes, 20 seconds. The international recognized boundary of space, during which they crossed the international recognized boundary of space at 100 kilometers above Earth. Huh. Okay. ChatGPT says yes. ChatGPT says yes. What are the other definitions for being an astronaut? Let's see. And then sees everybody though. NASA definition: flight must reach lowest orbit. You must be part of a U.S. spaceflight mission officially designated as a. So NASA says we've got to call you an astronaut to be an astronaut. The FAA, flight must be above 50 miles, 80 kilometers, which it was. The role must have demonstrated activities essential to public safety or contributed. So she didn't. The Kármán line, that's international, which we said they did cross. Anybody who crosses it. Public and popular usage, informally. Very interesting. Oop, dog wants more water. Astronaut. Exactly, Spirit. That's funny. That's very interesting, actually. Huh. More water? All right. Huh. That is very interesting. No, I'm actually very, it's funny. The second I started answering that question about is Katy Perry an astronaut, something in my head said, you don't really know. Don't say yes. But I thought, of course she is. She went high enough. Part of me was thinking, I don't really know the rules for astronaut. And apparently there are all sorts of crazy rules, which is very interesting. Wow. I know her public good is entertaining. Well, the public good. I mean, there is a public good in an all-female crew going to space and all of that, right? They're not just going for a joyride. Right. So, but I guess the point though is it does get a little difficult because at some point, if space flight becomes commercialized and we can all pay $100 or $500 to go to the moon or to go to space, are we all astronauts? Right. So at some point, the term astronaut is going to have to change. Well, at some point, the term may not matter. At some point, they're just pilots. I mean, if we all can fly to the moon eventually, then they're all pilots. That's all they are, right? At that point, right? I mean, it's very interesting. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, I think it was pretty cool. So I'm all for it. And again, happy to have a bunch of women flying to space. I think that's good too. So, Thank you. Who was that? Janice. Appreciate the panda hug. Well, and Mark Kelly is indeed an astronaut. Exactly. There have been all-female flights. There was an old one from years ago because you can tell the photo looks like it's from the 1980s or something. But still, it's still a good thing. Hey, I would argue now more than ever, it's not a bad thing to have a flight of all female astronauts or all female whatever going into space, right? Thank you, Randy. Just the fact that it happened 30 years ago does not mean women are okay today in America, especially. I mean, I thought, honestly, it caught my attention when I heard that the flight was all women. I went, uh-oh, Trump's not going to like this. It was a private flight, but I could, honestly, does Jeff Bezos get any, is it 100% commercial? Like there's no US money, I'm hoping, no US government money at all, because I saw that and immediately thought Trump is going to yank their money if they get any US money at all, government money, you know? But I'm hoping they don't, and I think they probably don't. But he's not going to like it being all women. Yeah. You know. Anyway. Yeah, but I think it's good. I think, honestly, I like, sending William Shatner up. I think it's great. I like space flight. I like the whole space thing. I think anything that promotes going into space more, maybe not to sow Elon's genes, but generally speaking, I think is a good thing, I'm sure Heritage Foundation is having a meltdown, of course. Well, because Heritage Foundation works for Trump. As I said, they're going to freak out that they picked all women. They're going to absolutely freak out. I'm sorry. Nope, my little girl's wandering. Anyway. Yep, Chuck, I know. All right, guys, it's been an hour and a half. Yesterday was an hour and 45 minutes. We're not doing that today. Yeah, people need to kind of get over themselves. There's nothing wrong with picking women for a space flight. It's okay. It's really not a bad thing. Thank you, Alec. All right, thank you, QT Chem. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. We've been doing an hour and a half. Thank you, Fauna. Good to see you. Have a good night, guys. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for your gifts and everything else. We'll be back tomorrow, Thursday at 6:00 Eastern time, US. We didn't talk about Garcia today because there was no news. I mean, yesterday was the big news day about him. Yeah, I just didn't, I did talk about the contempt and all of that. Yes. That wasn't just about him though, but yes, I did talk about the contempt. That was their first story, but it was the first story. So you missed it. Sorry. But about him personally, I did the big talk yesterday. Yeah. All right, guys. All right. Discord, I'm going to sign off with you first and then the rest of you. So good to see everybody. Thank you for joining us. All right. Discord. Boom. All right. YouTube, I should say, by YouTube.